Welcome back to Love at Any Age, where dating doesn't come with an expiration date. I am Laurie Gerber, your host, dating coach, truth teller, and believer that women over 50 deserve to love and be loved better than ever before. So if you have ever wondered, is it even worth it? Should I even get back out there given that I may be rejected? Can I even handle another rejection? Maybe there's something wrong with me. This episode is for you because today we're going to talk about how to handle rejection and why mastering the skill of handling rejection matters so much. And I'm going to talk about receiving it as well as giving it because those two things spook women so much when it comes to dating. They really spook people of all genders, but every day, practically, I hear someone saying, I just don't know if I can handle another rejection. And it's just so awkward to give a rejection. Please tell me in the comments which one spooks you more. Are you more afraid of being rejected or more afraid of doing the rejecting? Because both, let's face it, both are pretty awkward. So in today's episode, you're going to learn how to stop taking rejection as a verdict on your worth. We're going to basically demystify it and take the sting out. You're going to hear the 3 tricks that I give my private clients to be more resilient, more empowered, and to stay in action despite that sometimes the relationship is a no-go. And I'm going to teach you how to say no thank you with kindness, with clarity, and with no guilt so that you are armed and ready to date and hold out for what it is that you really want. And that includes my exact script and how to make yourself safe and make yourself feel safe when it comes to saying no to a man. These are things I hear women wish they had known sooner, so I'm telling them to you now. Let me start out with a fun little quote that I love. It's a Winston Churchill quote. He says, "Success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm." Let me say that again. Success, i.e., lasting and healthy love, consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Wow. So failure is part of the game. It is absolutely something you're going to encounter on your road to success. That means both getting it and giving it. Most likely, it's a very rare story that includes neither. So it's normal to fear rejection. It's normal to want to avoid it, but I'm going to try to help you stand up to it, i.e., feel the fear and do it anyway. So I'm not trying to take the fear away. I'm just trying to give you power in the face of it and help you stop avoiding the work that you need to do to be really ready to date like you mean it, despite the fact that it will be a roller coaster of emotions. So this entire podcast is really dedicated to helping you prepare to doing the self-work that makes you ready, that makes you a believer in love again, right? And if you have not yet binged the entire series up until now, this is episode 8. There are 7 other episodes already. Please go back and watch or listen to them if you haven't already, because this is all about the prep. This is all about the building the confidence and being ready so that when you do encounter the inevitable rejection parts of the process, you feel strong. You're going to talk about your 3 H's, your head, your heart, and your hoo-ha criteria. You're going to get very clear what you want. You're going to learn about the 3 date strategy. You're going to understand your liabilities. You're going to create the right questions to ask. All of that is part of the picture of feeling ready to get onto the court, into the game, off of the bench, and start playing where feelings will be involved. So doing that prep work is imperative. Believing you're going to succeed is imperative, including failures along the way. And taking action is imperative to finding healthy and lasting love. And wouldn't you agree that anything worth succeeding at, anything worth having in life has required effort, has required failure along the way, rejection along the way? I hope you can see the parallel to some other place or area in your life where you have withstood rejection, you withstood failure, and you have persevered, carried on, and ultimately succeeded. So handling rejection is also imperative because dating is a marathon, not a sprint. It is going to have miles to it. And one of the things we know from marathon training is number one, of course, preparation, but also that you have to pace yourself and you have to sometimes wear these little band-aids on your nipples or else the chafing gets intolerable and you may bleed. So it is the analogy holds very well that this is also a marathon. And so you need to protect yourself. You need to build what I would consider to be like building a callus against or putting band-aids on against chafing and against injury. Same exact thing. That's what we're doing here today. And the topic is rejection. Rejection maybe isn't the thing that will stop you, but it is the thing that will make you stronger and smarter about what you want. So without further ado, my three top tips that I give to my clients on how to handle rejection. And then at the end, we'll talk about how to give rejection in the most graceful possible way. So tip number one, always have a pipeline. A pipeline, I kind of like it for its sexual connotations. I kind of like it for the innuendo that it is, pipeline. Always have a pipeline. A pipeline is just a fancy way of saying multiple conversations going with multiple people. I know it is hard for some of you to think that that is a fair and nice thing to do, but in early dating, when you're just getting back out into the game, onto the court, you definitely want to have multiple conversations going at once. That doesn't mean you're lying to people. That doesn't mean you're pretending like you're only seeing one person at a time. And that doesn't mean you don't eventually cut off those other conversations. But having a pipeline changes your mindset. And that's why it's so important. You then are less likely to overinvest too soon before you have discovered that your 3H criteria are being met, and you're more resilient if one person falls away. Another thing I have to warn you about is that in the process of dating, you will likely be ghosted, especially if you're dating online and you're having lots of conversations with people over text or in an app. You're going to likely be ghosted. It will confuse you, it will upset you, and this is part of the process. And the very same coaching applies here. When you get ghosted, it is way easier to swallow. It's way easier to metabolize if you have other people in your pipeline. If you're having multiple conversations, you realize it's not the end of the world. In fact, it's actually helping you clarify and helping you narrow down to what you most want. And you're really getting rid of, if someone disappears or rejects you, you're getting rid of a person that's not right for you anyway. Dating is a numbers game. It is when you're getting back out there trying to find your person. And it is also an emotional practice. So the fact that it tests your courage and that it tests your fortitude and it tests your self-love, that's not actually a problem. That's actually helpful to you. It's going to make you a better, stronger person and a better, stronger partner. But lastly, having a pipeline keeps you lighthearted. It keeps you playful. It reduces your anxiety about every single individual person. And it keeps you in motion because, again, there's always someone you can be chatting with. In a later episode, we'll talk more about ghosting and we will talk more about when it's time to establish monogamy or cut off your conversations with other people and why it's really okay to be having multiple conversations at once to a certain extent. Okay, that's a topic for another day. I'm moving on to tip number two, which is the you are the shopper mentality. I remember when I used to coach people with Match.com, when it was called Match.com, and they hated the analogy of shopping, but I really like the analogy of shopping. I know it makes looking for love maybe seem a little bit more superficial or lighter than it really is. It's really such a deep thing to be endeavoring to do. But this is about mindset and the mindset of being the shopper. In other words, you're looking to see what matches you. When you shop for clothes, you look for color, you look for size, you look for price, you look for fit. It's the same exact thing when you're looking for love. And there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that both ways, right? They're also looking for the right fit. But too often as women, sometimes we sit around and think to ourselves that we are just being judged. We are being evaluated. And if someone doesn't choose us, it means we're not good enough. Or even if someone just disappears or isn't available emotionally or physically at that time, that it means something about us, that it's some sort of reflection on our self-worth. as a person, or sometimes we question how we look or something that we said, and we can spend a lot of hours going over and over again thinking, should I have said something different? Should I have done something different? Should I have looked different? Should I have dressed differently? Should I have... When actually what you're really finding out when that person disappears is that they weren't the right match for you. They weren't ready. There was something about you that was a deal breaker for them, or that they were just more attracted to something else. And that is such good news for you that you're not bothering spending any more of your time and energy trying to figure out how to please that person. My slogan here is your one wants you. So if you're looking for the one, obviously there's more than one, the one, but if you're looking for the one of the primary criteria is that they want you, that they're available now, that they're interested in you right now. So if none of those are true, they are not your one. And as a shopper, you can be very glad they did not jump in your cart, because that would be wasting your time, literally taking your time away from trying out the other options. So if somebody disappears that you thought was a good prospect, right, a 6 or above in head, heart, and hoo-ha, I'm not saying don't feel sad. I'm not saying don't have a moment of a pity party or your feelings, right? It's unfortunate. It's a high and a low, but don't let it last for too long. Okay, if it's lasting for too long, something else fishy is going on there, because in early dating, you shouldn't be attached yet. This shouldn't be personal yet. This should be it should be a lot like shopping at the store, where you bring 20 things into the dressing room and obviously a bunch of them aren't going to be a fit, and you're just happy that you're getting through the process to your ultimate choice. Okay, so grieve if you need to, but pivot back into action as quickly as possible so that you can remember, number one, that there's so many other options just around the corner, and number two, that you are resilient and you can handle this, which will also serve you well in relationship. So you're browsing, you're not begging, you're looking for them and at them, not just being looked at by them. And every experience adds information to the process. It's not meant to hurt you. It's not meant to stick with you. I want to really underline how pivotal it is to mind your mood. And I should say your mood of self-worth, right? The vibe you have about how great you think you are. And we're going to talk a lot about this in the next episode, because oftentimes in dating, if things are not going our way, we can get into this eddy, and it can become a very serious self-critical pity party where we feel better if we can find something to criticize about ourselves or something that is wrong with us, because at least we feel in control of that, than to actually admit the real truth, which is that we are not willing to take the actions required to find our person. What I found with many of the women I coach is that it's more the latter, less the former, except we're so used to this self-doubt and this self-flagellation, and we can always find fodder for it. So I'm going to warn you right now, your mood of self-worth is communicating. You actually are much more attractive when you feel like you're hot shit. But it's very hard to feel like you're hot shit when you're not taking the appropriate actions. That includes self-care, but that also includes flirting, getting out there, giving out your number, talking to people in real life. I'm just going to give you one quick example from my coaching experience, which was Kim, wonderful woman, post-divorce about 2 years, an excellent candidate for love, smart, successful, beautiful. And she was knee deep in fear about being ghosted. She had been ghosted one time on the dating sites, and she was practically phobic about getting back on them because it had hurt her feelings so much. She took it so personally. It turned out it also really triggered some of her feelings about rejection in past relationships. But we got her to get back out there just one more time, and then just one more time, and then just one more time. And after a couple of months of experience, she realized that people on dating sites are in all parts of the map, right? There are some people who are absolutely ready to go looking for their one. There are some people who don't know where they are. And there's some people who are really just there for therapy, for connection, for entertainment, and they're not there to settle down. And she stopped taking that personally. She realized she only needed one, and very soon after, she met her partner. So that change in attitude, that perspective of, listen, people are going to be all over the map. It's okay. Humans are humans. If they don't pick me, they're not my one. I wish them luck, and you move on unscathed. And that kind of leads me to my third tip, which is to be accepting and kind, because nobody likes giving rejection either, right? That this really is why so many people are on the bench for years, because these awkward moments where you have to say, you know what, it's not quite right. And take that risk that speaking up will either make it better or possibly end the relationship and you'll feel lonely again. So nobody wants to say no, thank you. People are tremendously afraid to speak up about their needs or their opinions. And so, if someone is brave enough to not ghost you, but instead tell you that they don't think it's a match or they're not feeling it, please be accepting and kind. Acknowledge that that was a brave thing to say and that was way better than if they just disappeared and didn't tell you what the reason was. So even though you may be hurting inside, you may feel embarrassed or humbled, I want you to try to bring your grace forward and thank them for their honesty. You could really say something like, thank you so much for being upfront with me. I really appreciate your candor and I wish you the best with your journey. That kindness protects your energy. It doesn't just take care of them, it protects your energy because every graceful interaction like that is a small act of self respect. It's also what I would call good karma. You know, the concept of what goes around comes around. So, the more kind you can be, the more accepting you can be, the more you will expect and should expect that kind of kindness back to you. So, I know that's hard, and sometimes it will not feel good to be magnanimous. But you also never know who this person's gonna turn out to be. So even though they're not a romantic match, I know some women whose exes or the people with whom it didn't work out in early dating ended up introducing them to their actual partners. The world is very small. You just don't know who knows people, right? And you've given your heart to this person, you've opened up to this person to whatever extent you have. They can now be an ally if you treat them with kindness and you don't take it personally if it's not a romantic match. So the man that just rejected you or got rejected by you could down the line end up being a friend, a business associate, someone who donates to your charity or runs a marathon with you or does a walkathon with you, could be the person who introduces you to your partner. You just don't know who people are going to turn out to be. So remember, there are other purposes to dating than just finding your one, right? There's the learning, there's the growth, there's the practice. There are all the connections that you make with people that matter, even if they don't end up being your final, lasting, healthy love match. So don't leave any bad juju in your wake. Leave love and kindness in your wake. Okay, now we're turning our attention to that other rejection issue, which is what if I have to say it to them? Most people don't find this one as scary, but it's still pretty awkward. And it can be especially awkward for a woman because we don't know how a man's going to react. And there still can be this, and if men are listening, you should know this fear that if we say no, he might challenge that no, he might get angry, he might get upset, he might even get aggressive. So, this is a very real and understandable fear that we have about giving a rejection. So, I want to psych you up that there are lots of things you can do to avoid getting into that position to begin with. But then, even when you are in that position, I'm going to give you the script for how to talk it through with the person. The real trick is to eliminate the non-matches as early as possible, right? People are way less offended if you eliminate them early on. And this is why we do the 3H chart and the 3H questions. And if you don't know what a 3H chart or 3H questions is, please just go back and watch or listen from the beginning. I explain everything, but you do a very thorough inventory of what it is that you really want and you essentialize it. And then you ask a lot of questions in the very beginning when you're texting and on the first and second date about the other person to determine whether or not this is likely a good match. And you don't go on a live date with a person, which is where the real connection starts happening, unless they are 6 or above on a scale of 1 to 10 in all three ages, the head, the heart, and the hoo-ha. You also have a video chat before you go on that live date. So if there is not a good romantic spark or a good connection on the video date, you're not going to end up on a live date with that person. You're going to say your no thank you much sooner before anybody really can get offended. So if it fizzles because either on the video chat there's not chemistry or you discover a deal breaker. A deal breaker is something that's unacceptable to you in head, heart, or hoo-ha. If you discover a deal breaker in the texting or the video chat and you're too shy in that video chat to say, hey, listen, I don't think this is a match, then what you're going to do is right after that video chat, you're going to write a text. Okay. And I'm giving you can do this live if you feel comfortable, if you feel safe, you can do this live. It's a kind thing to do, but you can also text this. And even better if you're still just in app, right? You're using an in-app video or you're using the texting capabilities of the app, because then they can't find you again, right? Once you're done with that, they're not gonna be able to contact you again. You'll say something like, hey, I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm realizing we're probably not a long-term fit. And then you can write given and fill in the deal breaker, given our geography, given our differing politics, given our differences around our habits, or given that you smoke, or given your kids are still at home, or given what I'm looking for versus what you're looking for. But I wish you the best of luck out there. Okay, so simple, kind, and effective, keeps your energy clean, keeps your confidence intact, and keeps your dance card open, right? We want to be clearing the danglers out. We don't want confusion. We don't want anybody who's sort of in the in between. The more you cut people loose, the freer you will be and the freer they will be. But notice in that communication, it starts with grace. There's the wisdom in the middle, and then it ends with grace. It's a grace and wisdom sandwich. So you say something nice. You seem lovely. It's been nice getting to know you. In the middle is the truth. I don't think we're a romantic match. Fill in the blank for the reason. I just don't feel that spark. And then end with, I wish you the best of luck out there, or everything is great for you going forward. So there are a couple of variations. You're going to write your own version of that rejection script, and you're going to learn to say it out loud. And you're certainly going to have it in your little canned responses cut and paste file so you can quickly respond after you get off a video chat or even after a live date with that communication, so nobody is left wondering. Do you have to explain why it's a 3H mismatch? Do you owe that to the other person? The answer is it's a nice thing to do, but it is not obligatory. You do not owe an explanation. But if you think about times when you've been ghosted or somebody has broken up with you and you didn't know why, admit it, you probably wish you knew, right? You probably wish you knew if it was something you could have controlled or something you couldn't have controlled, whether it was something that means you should be working on an issue or something that just was incompatible between the two of you that couldn't change things, or you have a different value on something. Explaining that to the other person can help them let go more easily and can sort of help them not take a self-esteem hit. If it's something like you didn't feel the romantic spark, saying something like, I just didn't feel the romantic spark is a much nicer way to say it than I wasn't attracted to you, or you're not hot enough for me, or you're not tall enough for me. These are things a person can't change. So you want to be kind in explaining, but you don't owe them an explanation. And if you think your explanation, like, I think you have anger management issues, or I don't think you've been in recovery long enough. If you think your real answer would be triggering to the other person, you don't have to give your answer. You don't owe that. If the issue and the reason you have to reject someone is that you don't feel the spark, I really do want you to figure out that mismatch as soon as you possibly can. But it might be hard to do so without having a couple of dates and without trying some smooching. So that's understandable. But remember, the more feelings develop and the more attraction develops, the more uncomfortable it will be when you have to say no. So here are just some suggestions to reduce the risk. If you are not at a 6 or above in hoo-ha, don't smooch. Don't even let them kiss you on the cheek. Don't hold hands. Don't show physical affection. It will send the wrong message. Do meet somewhere in public. For dates 1 through 3, we already know this. It makes sense to meet in public where you can speak. Meeting in private would signal a more serious intention and would also signal the possibility of hooking up or sex, and we don't want to do that. Number 3, keep talking about what you want. Keep asking questions. Keep mentioning deal breakers and what each of you is looking for, head, heart, and hoo-ha. Because then it's not going to be that surprising if at a certain point you're like, uh-oh, this is something that I've already planned to not be okay with, or this is already something I've already promised myself I wouldn't do again. The language of I'm looking for my match, I'm looking for these things, what are you looking for, will help. If you prepave with that language, it'll help when you've discovered something that's a mismatch, being able to speak about it. And of course, there's always that chance when you speak about it, it could change something if it's something that can be changed. If it's not something that can be changed, you want to get out as soon as possible. 4, have somewhere to be at the end of a date. Okay, it could be just home with your cats, but have somewhere that you have to be at the end of your dates. That is for dates 1 through 3. So that when you realize that it's not a match, if you do, you already have a plan, you already have an exit route. Obviously, either be able to use a car service or have your own car and be able to exit when it is that you feel it's appropriate to exit. And make sure if you're really not sure, if you're kind of like at a 6 in clarity about the other person, make sure they know you have somewhere to be at the end of the date, which will help relieve the pressure when it's time to go. And number 5, last hack to avoid the awkwardness, don't drink. I know this is a really hard one, and many of you will not follow it, but do not drink on your first few dates, because this is how it gets so much easier to sell out on your 3H criteria and say yes when you mean no, or go forward when you mean to pause. A 6 in hoo-ha can look a lot like an 8 in hoo-ha when you're drinking, right? And when you're lonely. But the next morning, not so much. They go back to a 6, and then you feel really awkward and bad to have to cut it off. So these are the hacks to sort of prevent that awkward before it starts. At the end of the date, if he asks you out and you are not interested, you can tell him right then and there, I have had a great time getting to know you. You seem friendly, kind, smart, wonderful, successful, fabulous, fill in the blank. I don't think this is a romantic match, but I wish you the best, or best of luck. Wishing you the best of luck. Those are really nice ways of saying no thank you that can be easily interpreted. Again, a grace and wisdom sandwich. Kindness, truth, kindness. So it's easier to swallow, and it goes all the way down. And again, if it doesn't feel safe, you can do that in a text. I do want to acknowledge that sometimes men get defensive or aggressive if they feel like you haven't given them a chance. This is something I hear from men over and over again. I haven't been given a chance. I haven't been given a chance. This is not your problem. And I'll say that with a caveat. I do want you to ask good questions in advance. I do want you to pay attention to him. I do want you to bring out the best in him. I do want you to use open body language and be kind and fun so that he does feel like he's being given a chance. So that is right, but you do not owe somebody cramming them into your 3H chart just to keep them happy. And that might be a bad habit of yours. So please know that you do not need to do that. Once you have exited the date, you can block them on the app or the phone. You can text your rejection, right? It's better than ghosting. Your karma will be intact, but so will your safety. And you don't owe any further communication, even if you get guilt tripped and even if you get pressured into that. You don't owe that. Which is again why I think if you're dating online and you don't know the people, or you don't share a community with the people that you're dating, you want to stay in the app, even through a live date, right? So where you can really test how you feel with them, how much you trust them, how similar to how they've represented themselves online and on the phone and in video matches how they are in real life. Final warning, they may try to stay friends with you. This is a tactic, number 1, because they might be lonely, and number 2, because they might think if they have more time to prove themselves, if they have more time to be near you, they may win you over as a romantic partner. This is not in your best interest. It is not in your best interest to stay friends. I know there are exceptions to this rule. You're probably saying, but my best friend, I used to date. I understand, but the exceptions prove the rule. Because just remember this, when your person does come along, the love of your life, the person you're going to build and intertwine your life with, he is not going to appreciate the fact that you are still entangled with, in whatever way, even if it is platonic or a friendship, with a man who was once attracted to you, or whom you were once attracted to, or both. So this is long-term thinking, folks. And I know it's me being nerdy again, and you're not going to like it. Okay. And I know there's so many people who, especially when they're lonely and they're first dating, they want to keep people around. But I want you to focus your friendships on people that could be absolutely no threat to your primary love relationship. You do not need more friends, most likely, and you do not owe it to a man to stay friends. What you can say instead is, if I change my mind, I promise I will reach out to you again. I wish you the best of luck. But you do not owe a friendship, especially if sometimes that might be a manipulation. Bottom line, the cliche is really true, folks. The truth sets you free. The truth sets you free, and it sets him free too. There is a magic that happens when you're honest about your no, because every time you say no, that's actually saying yes to what you really want. And so much good will come to you when you are brave and you are clear and you tell the truth that honors your three H's. I promise I've seen this work over and over again. Please trust me. Your assignment, should you choose to accept it, please, first of all, open up your pipeline. If you have been sitting on the sidelines, get in the game, get into a dating site, ask your friends, go to a singles event, plan something. Plan one or two ways you're going to expand your dating pool so that you feel like there's more potential in your pipeline. If you're too scared to date online, still, don't worry. New episodes are coming for you that focus on exactly that. So if you need to stay on the bench a little longer, you can dog ear this homework for later. Not a problem. But I do want you to do the second homework, which is come up with how you're going to say your gentle, kind no thank you. You can use my script, just go back to the timestamp. But be sure, however you say it, it is kind and clear. It balances grace and wisdom. Your third homework assignment is to revisit that 3H chart you made. If you haven't made it yet, obviously go back and listen to the other episodes and just do a little inventory. Has being rejected made you change your chart? Has it influenced the things that you've put on your chart? Or is your chart free and clear with you resolved that all past rejections, yours or theirs, were perfect, were in your interest, and no longer can hurt you? So just check to make sure your 3H chart represents you completely authentically, and promise yourself going forward that you're going to honor all 3H's, even if somebody really wants you, even if 2 out of the 3H's are great, even if they guilt trip you, you're going to stay true to your 3H's in the conversations with the other person, and even when emotions are running high. That is your homework. Enjoy. Please get to me in the comments about your questions about the homework and about what you find when you start to do the homework. And go back, watch the other episodes, folks. Leave me comments about the assignments. Leave me comments about what you don't understand. I really want to get an interaction going here. If you're with me on YouTube, thank you so much, because there's a lot of work for me to do on YouTube. So please, if you have not yet subscribed on YouTube, if you've not yet left a comment or hit that little like thumbs up, please start interacting with me on YouTube. That's a place where we really can develop community and you can see me. So I love you on YouTube. If you're on Spotify or Podbean or Apple or wherever else you get your podcasts, I love you too. Check me out on YouTube at some point. And let me tell you about next week. Okay, next week we are diving into self-love, because a few episodes ago I said to you something like, I want you to really be you. If you're not being you, right? I think this is one of the biggest mistakes, right? Faking who you are. If you don't be you, how are you going to find the right match? But then I started to think, well, what if you don't like yourself or you don't love yourself? That would be a big obstacle. Okay, so I have to address that big obstacle. And in fact, it's going to come in 5 or 6 parts, because there's so many things that we beat up ourselves about. So next week, I'm probably going to start with body image because that's one of the biggest obstacles I hear from women all the time. So we're going to dive into self-love. We're going to dive into body image because if you're not feeling good about yourself, you're not going to attract the caliber person you really want. You just listened to Love at Any Age, where I help women over 50 unlock love with real tools, bold truth, and zero fluff. I love saying zero fluff. If you are ready to date with confidence and you have not yet checked out my free webinar on my website, run over to lauriegerber.com/webinar and watch 3 secrets to finding and maintaining healthy love without repeated disappointments. It is currently still free. Go check it out. I'm going to walk you through creating that 3H chart, teach you about the 3-date strategy, and just generally help you make love more efficient, more fun, and more likely to result in what you actually want. So go check out that webinar. If you're enjoying this podcast, you will definitely enjoy that webinar. It's very how-to. There's pictures. You can follow along. lauriegerber.com/webinar. And if this episode helped you, if you got something out of it, please make sure you're subscribed to me on YouTube or wherever you're getting your podcasts. Follow me, rate me, leave a review, share it with a friend, shout it from the rooftops, tell everybody. Love does not have an expiration date. It is okay. It is safe to believe in love again, and it's much more fun when you're surrounded by other people who believe it too and are cheering you on, and that's this community. So, see you next Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern. Mark your calendars, set your alarms, and be there.